Thank you for joining my Egypt presentation. I'll be conducting a tour to Egypt in November of 2022. It'll be my sixth trip. As you can see there to the left, I've had trips starting in 2015 and most recently completing in October of 2021. I'll be the coordinator for this trip. I'm anticipating from 20 to 36 participants. Just to introduce myself to the people that haven't traveled with me, I'd just like you to know that I've been conducting off the beaten path adventure tours since 2013. I'm a retired Navy person. Uh, I have been seeking scenic, adventure, and uncommon destinations for the people that travel with me. On each tour to Egypt, I try to improve upon the previous tour. So after 5 tours, I've made some changes. Here are some of the updates I've made. For the first time, we'll be flying out of Dulles instead of JFK. It'll be a shorter connect for people in my area to get to Dulles in Washington, D.C., other than to New York. I have added to the trip toured from Aswan down to Abu Simbel by bus instead of by air, reducing the price to 1/3 of what it was by air. There's a possibility, a good possibility, that the Great Egyptian Museum will be open. It's been under construction for a number of years now and has been scheduled to open in 2021 and before, but by the time of November rolling around, probably be open. I've added a day tour to Alexandria for people that would like to do that. It'll be an optional tour. I've arranged for an extra day in Cairo just to enhance us on being able to get out and see more in the Cairo area and up to Alexandria. And I've added the exploration of 3 pyramids in the Saqqara uh, pyramid complex that we'll be able to explore the Bent Pyramid and the Dashur pyramids by entering the interior, spending time there exploring it. Quite exciting. More on that later. I have a tour agency that helps me in arranging for the hotels and the travel and the tours. It's Indus Travels. They've helped me with the previous tours that I have listed there, 3 to China, 3 to Peru, 5 to Egypt, 2 to Iceland, 1 to Nepal and India, and 1 to Morocco. My planned tours for 2022 will be based on what the risks are regarding the COVID pandemic, but I'll be looking for perhaps Morocco. I already have Iceland on the schedule, and I have Egypt on the schedule. I'm looking at Croatia also, and possibly Vietnam and Cambodia if tourism is reinstated there. Just a summary of my experience in Egypt. I was able to live on the North Shore of Egypt from 2001 to 2002 as I worked with the Egyptian Air Force. During that time, I visited and explored Cairo numerous times. The Giza pyramids and other pyramids were visited, probably around 10 of the existing pyramids. I've had 5 Nile cruises. I did a lot of driving and exploring of the Sinai, and I've had about 15 visits to Sharm el-Sheikh and the Sinai. Just showing a couple of the groups that I went with from 2015. In the lower right there is the cruise boat that we use. We pretty much use the same cruise boat each time. It's the newest boat on the Nile. In 2019, I have a small group. I think we are 12 people or so. Hope for more on future trips. In 2021, just completed, we had 21 participants. Here's a listing of some of the highlights of our 2022 tour. Luxor to Aswan on the riverboat is probably the most spectacular part of the trip. We'll be spending 4 days on the river and visiting the archaeological sites along the river, including Karnak, Valley of the Kings, Valley of the Queens, Abu Simbel will be an option, and many other attractions along the river. Probably about 8 temples that we will be visiting there. In the Sinai, we'll spend 4 days in Sharm el-Sheikh. We'll be able to visit Ras Mohammed National Park for the best snorkeling in the world. We'll have a desert dinner that's available. And our oceanfront hotel is an ideal vacation resort. In Cairo, we'll see the Giza pyramids, of course, the Egyptian Museum, and perhaps the Great Egyptian Museum that will be open in November, I believe. And we'll visit the old marketplace of the Khan el Khalili in Old Cairo. There is an option for a day trip up to Alexandria, 4 days in all in Cairo, 4 days on the Nile, 4 days in the Sinai, and 4 days in Cairo. Gives us a good review of what's available to us in Egypt. Here is a listing of some of the additional options that we will have while in Egypt. The climb of Mount Sinai and the visit to St. Catherine's Monastery is one of the highlights for people that would like to have a beautiful view of the sunrise from the summit of Mount Sinai. The sunrise coming across Saudi Arabia and the beautiful mountains between here and between the mountaintop and Saudi Arabia are just spectacular. For people that are not into snorkeling, glass bottom boat tour is available. They'll be snorkeling at our beach hotel. There's great nightlife right there in Sharm, right at our hotel. Desert camel rides available, boat tours, visit to Petra, Jordan is probably going to be available if the border is open. In Cairo, I'll try to get anyone that wants to go to the 6 October War Museum, and there'll be an optional visit to Alexandria, as I mentioned, and a visit to the Saqqara pyramids and the Khan el Khalili. On the Nile, many ancient sites to visit, and Abu Simbel being an option. Here's a listing of our tour itinerary between 1 November and 15 November. We'll depart IAD, which is Washington International Airport, at 12 o'clock on 1 November, arriving in Cairo about 10 or 11 hours later. And coming home, you'll see that we get home on the 15th of November. It's about an 11-hour flight from Cairo back to Dulles. This slide shows our route of flight direct from Dulles to Cairo. One way, it's about 5,600 miles, about a quarter of the way around the Earth. Its time zone there is 7 hours later than Eastern Standard Time. We'll be flying on Egypt Air. They have new Boeing 787 Dreamliners. Nice airplane. It has 333 seating, as you see in the schematic below the aircraft. Egypt Air just upgraded to this from the Boeing 777, and it is a delight to fly as a passenger in this aircraft. In all, we have 4 domestic flights while in Egypt. Our first flight would be out of Cairo to Luxor to join our cruise boat, and then on the cruise boat for 4 days down to Aswan. And after that cruise, we fly back to Cairo and then to Sharm el-Sheikh after a short turnaround time in Cairo. And from Cairo, we have to go back to, from Sharm, we have to go back to Cairo on a flight, and we'll have 4 days after we get there. On the right, you can see the distances between the areas that we'll be visiting. Again, you can see our schedule here. This one pertains to flying on Egypt Air. You can pause here if you need to take a closer look. It's quite extensive information here. But basically, you'll see departure from Washington, arrival in Cairo, and then our shuttle down to Luxor and back from Aswan and back to Sharm el-Sheikh. And then circled in red there is the return home flight. The Nile is quite an impressive river, being the longest river in the world. It flows north from the heart of Africa into the Mediterranean Sea. There are several dams along the Nile. We'll be visiting two of them. Those dams control the flooding, but the whole plains along the Nile River is really rich with vegetation, primarily farming. We'll see a lot of farming in that narrow belt between the river and the desert. This is our river boat. I try to get the same boat each year. I've probably had this one 3 or 4 times, and it's the newest boat on the Nile. The staterooms are quite comfortable. The upper deck during the cruising down the Nile gives a good view of the coastline, and it's very comfortable to sit up there with friends and enjoy the scenery during a pleasant cruise. After getting to Luxor and night falls, we'll get to visit the Luxor Temple. It's best seen at night with the lighting, as you see here in this photograph. Photographed here on the deck of our cruise boat is the group that went with me on the 2017 trip. I believe there's 36 of us. Everyone enjoyed it tremendously. If you want to pause here, you can see a participant's comment below. Actually, I believe it was the 2018 trip that was the 36 people. You can see us gathered here at the swimming pool on the upper deck. Again, you can pause here if you'd like to read that endorsement below. Here we have a couple of views from the upper deck of our boat. Very pleasant to watch the scenery go by. While in Luxor, we get a chance to visit Karnak, which is the largest temple in Egypt. Quite well restored. The grounds are extensive. This is a very special place that you will enjoy. Also in Luxor, we'll visit the Luxor Temple. This is one of the temples near the Valley of the Kings. We'll be visiting the Valley of the Kings, which is a burial site with a lot of tombs that have been discovered in the past few hundred years. Edfu Temple is along the river. Our boat will actually stop and we'll travel over to the temple, probably walk over. It's going to be close. All the temples are adjacent to. Here's an example of Kamambo. It's right on the river. We pull right up there and go ashore into that temple. At the end of our Nile cruise and while in Aswan, we'll take a boat and visit the Temple of Pele. It's very interesting because the temple was submerged in the river when the lower dam was built, and for years it remained underwater. But in 1970, the funds were gained so that a cofferdam could be built around the temple, and the temple was removed stone by stone and reconstructed on an adjacent island. Quite impressive. Once we travel down the river and visit 3 or 4 or 5 temples, we end up in Aswan, which is an impressive town, as you can see here. This is more a river scene than a look at the botanical gardens, but I'm standing in the botanical gardens in Aswan. You're going to be surprised at the vegetation that's growing on this island in this very dry climate. Of course, the river is the lifeline of Egypt, and we're adjacent to the river here. There's a beautiful sand dune across the river from where we are here, and you'll see scenes like this in numerous places along the Nile. The botanical gardens down there, that's going to be a great visit. It's going to be a surprising visit for us when we go down there. Inside Egypt, when we travel down to the Sinai Peninsula, I just wanted to give you a look at where we will be. You can see down at the very south end of the peninsula is Ras Mohammed, and just north of that is the town of Sharm el-Sheikh. You can see in the central South Sinai there's St. Catherine's. That's where Mount Sinai is, and some people may elect to take an optional tour up there to climb that mountain. It's not too challenging, but it's quite beautiful. The troubled area in the Sinai is located up to the northeast of the peninsula. It's on the border with the Gaza Strip and Israel. It's a place where they're having trouble, if any, now. Also would avoid the western desert on the Libyan border, a long ways away from Cairo. The security that we get from the northern Sinai is separation by mountains, desert, and road access. Checkpoints are all along the roads everywhere in Egypt just to protect tourists. Protection of tourists is a priority. I might mention that Egypt is a very safe location in the Middle East. I might say that only one American has been killed by terrorist activity in the past 30 or 40 years. You can't say that about many places in the world. In Sharm el-Sheikh, we'll be staying at the Savoy Hotel. It's on the beach at the Gulf of Aqaba. We've stayed there 2 times previously. This will be our 3rd time to stay in this hotel. It's ideally located with its own little shopping area within the compound. You won't have to go anyplace else, but we will take a trip down to New Sharm and Old Sharm and explore the tourist activity that's going on down there. You'll love this hotel. This is a view from a room I had on the first visit to this hotel. They're not always this great for view, but they're all nice rooms and large and spacious rooms. We're looking out toward the Gulf of Aqaba here, and the island you see out there is Tyran Island off the coast of Saudi Arabia. The last time I was there, I visited the island for snorkeling. I had to go out there on a boat. This time, I think we'll go south and visit Ras Mohammed National Park. It's quite scenic there, and the water is beautiful there. The water is also very beautiful right off this hotel beach. If you did no other place but that for snorkeling or for relaxing on the beach, you'd have a good, relaxing vacation. Sharm el-Sheikh is a resort for much of Europe, and it's like for them the distance is like our going down to Mexico for a vacation. It's a modern tourist city or town, I should say. It has an Arabic flair, of course. That's what we want. And Ras Mohammed at the southern tip is quite exciting for the people that love to snorkel and see exciting scenery. We'll be traveling down there on an optional tour. Probably cost $35 or $40 each to go down there. But we'll also have a boat tour that will take us down there along the water and even go over to Tyran Island off the coast of Saudi Arabia. Here's some snorkeling views. That's my wife Karen there snorkeling near a reef. For those folks that are not into snorkeling, glass bottom boat tour is fabulous. You'll enjoy that. For those that would like to try snorkeling, it's quite an easy sport to participate in. I'm willing to give lessons here for anyone that's interested before we go. And two, we'll get a check out in the pool and in the calm waters of the Gulf of Aqaba or the Red Sea. From Sharm el-Sheikh, we'll have the option to visit Mount Sinai and climb to the summit to witness the sunrise over Saudi Arabia and the mountains between Mount Sinai summit, and the Gulf of Aqaba. Afterwards, we can tour the monastery at the foot of Sinai. Here's a view of St. Catherine's Monastery at the base of Mount Sinai. It's been in existence for over 800 years. This is the famed site of the burning bush. We'll spend a little time in there. In Cairo, we'll be staying at this hotel. It's on Tahrir Square. It's just right there by the old museum. You can walk to it. It's near the pyramids, but would take a taxi to get over there, which is part of our deal. We'll be on a bus to go over and visit the pyramids. Also, the Khan el Khalili, the old shopping area in Old Cairo, is about 3 miles away. We'll get over there. We'll visit the Great Pyramids, of course, and hopefully have that extra day. We'll see some other pyramids too. So your chance to ride a camel and get a good picture is right here at the pyramids. Here's the old museum. We hope the new museum will be open in 2019 when we get there, but I wouldn't count on it. It might be 2020. It was originally scheduled to be open in 2018, but it didn't make it. Just a correction from the last slide. We visited the old museum, the original Egyptian museum in Cairo, just across from our hotel when we were there on our trip in October of 2021. Hopefully, when we get to Egypt, the new museum will be open. Here's an aerial view of that museum. A fortune is being put into the building of this museum, and it's taken a long time. COVID has slowed it down, but it is due to be opened by November of the year of our tour, 2022. I've added an extra day to our trip and our stay in Cairo so that folks that would like to get up to the Mediterranean town of Alexandria, you'll be able to do a day bus trip to that destination. About half our people went in the 2021 visit. This is an example of the passageways leading into the pyramids that we can visit. And there are big chambers inside where you can stand up, and also where you have to climb scaffolding to get to other parts of the pyramid. The compartments down there are rather spacious and quite impressive. Our last day in Cairo is a free day, so I hope to get some people together and go down to visit the 3 pyramids south of Giza, south of the Great Pyramids. The one you see in the upper left corner is called the Bent Pyramid. The one on the right is Saqqara. And you could go in the Bent Pyramid and explore the passageways inside. The picture right below that with Amanda shows some of the structure in there so that you can get around. And you see me on the right standing outside of one of the entrances to the pyramids. This is quite an exciting trip down to see those pyramids. There's another pyramid called the Red Pyramid that we'll be able to go inside also. So a total of 2 pyramids that we'll be able to crawl in. You'll need to be reasonably physically fit to do it because it's tight and these overheads are very low and some of the passageways. You'll spend an hour in each of the pyramids. You'll get quite fatigued. While in Sharm el-Sheikh, there will be a tour to Petra if the borders are open at that time. Petra, Jordan, is a World Heritage Site that you've probably heard of before. The trip is to drive along the shoreline of the Gulf of Aqaba up to Aqaba itself, take a ferry crossing into Jordan, and then a bus trip up to Petra, and then repeat that trip. It takes about 12 to 15 hours to complete this tour. Some will want to visit it. In Luxor, on the first morning there, you'll have the opportunity to
to fly in a hot air balloon across the Nile and into the Valley of the Kings, and then back down to land on the western side of the Nile. The cost is about $150. It's probably a half an hour to an hour trip. I believe you'll find the cost of the trip around $2,950 per person is quite reasonable when you consider all of the assets that we have available. That would be 2 trips across the Atlantic and 4 domestic flights in Egypt, all included. Breakfast is included every day. Dinners, breakfast, and lunch available on the cruise for those 4 days. This tour is actually $250 less than it was in 2019. You can see the single supplement there, but for anyone that needs a roommate, to avoid that extra cost, I'll be coordinating for you to find a suitable roommate, hopefully. The final payment would be due on the 6th of July, and trip insurance would have to be purchased if desired at that time or within 10 days of any commitment to the trip. I would say commit with me early because I only have 22 spaces allotted. I have been able to get a few extra spaces in the past, but I don't know what October 2021 will offer us. The travel agency that I use has a refund policy if the trip is called off. There may not be a cash refund, but there'd be a voucher return that would recover your money on any future trip that you took, which would be perhaps Egypt rescheduled at a safer time. I will keep an eye on the world situation for travel and health, and I will not commit any of our funds until that looks like it's reasonably secure.
The weather, as I mentioned, October is the beginning of the tourist season. That means the weather is perfect. No visa requirements that are hard to meet. You just show up at the airport, pay $25. They give you a sticker for your passport, and you're good to go. There's no immunization requirements, and you'll be very pleased with the atmosphere. Gets a little dusty, but generally it'll be blue skies, blue clear skies. Attire is conservative, but you can get by with anything really. I'd say around Cairo you'd want to be more formal than you are down in Luxor or on or I should say on our riverboat cruise or at Sharm el Sheikh. But it's pretty much what you would wear casually around here. Please don't hesitate to call me with any questions you might have. My phone number is listed here, and I'll be glad to meet with anyone that needs further information, and I'll be supplying information from now until we go on the trip. Thank you for joining the presentation, and please let me know if you're interested, and I'll start to think of reserving a spot for you.